Nah, so the hierarchy, the way that it goes and stuff like that, would be that somewhere you're gonna have a stud, right? Yeah, very stud-like. What's up? He's gonna be in his 20s to like 40s. What's up? And your stud is your stud is your mechanic. What's up? He's like your artist. Yeah, that's somewhat trigger a mechanical aspect of his brain over here. That's gonna go on based off like an instinct that he's chasing after. That's gonna be related to something that he wants specifically to master on the special, because he already know what he's doing or what he wants to do specifically on stuff. Right. So within the hierarchy, you have the old stud over here. Yeah, that's gonna be like a resource person over here, like the manager on the special, based on the system. But you want to have your stud. That's gonna be like in your 20s to like 40s and stuff. That's gonna be the one over here. That's gonna be the professional. That's putting skill to the test to often like somewhat surpass the old master craftsman on the space side. So the stud is gonna be like around that competition itself, but the stud will be the one over here. Yeah, that's doing the surgery on the operation on the table itself. That's so well. Everybody else right here, yeah, still has a long way to go in terms of like stuff that they have to go off and like revise over and over again until they get there. But yeah, in the meantime, I said the studs like myself over here. I'm busy being a stud in terms of offense specifically. That's why I don't let peer pressure. That's it. To like, yeah, I'm like, yo, who's teaching these kids bad manners on, especially? They ain't just like, yo, that's just the way Muslims are built. That's all. Yeah, the Muslims love to use the kids in the domain of warfare to go off on like because you want to see the Muslims do some of the dumbest thing you ever seen in your life inside a dangerous environment. So me over there as like a regular parent, I'll never want my kid to go off and like play around a soldier on a space. Like I don't know what the soldier mindset is. I don't know if that soldier went on to like get blown up and he has a hatred for like me or my kind of real, or if it might be like Nazi Germany around that space. So in my instinct, the instinct that I have is go off and take my kid and get my kid out of the zone over here. So not go off and like get my kid to go off and like use my children, and then have my children go off and play around a soldier. And then when a soldier goes off and he kill my child around the process over there, I want to be at the funeral somewhere, crying in front like a whole bunch of people around the space. Yeah, so yeah, these are the type of people that they use specifically. We're in the wrong timeline. What's up? As you can see, I have a system here. Yeah, that replaces the fiber optic system. I tell you, they put a whole bunch of like motherboards and microcontroller system. If a good heatsink in there to be somewhat generate signals and stuff. I don't want to say microwaves or stuff. I'm not sure the 5G uses a microwave system, because I haven't revised it in a long time or something. Yeah, to like what is the frequency of it? Is it like 5 gigahertz or something? No, because they go on a high frequency for that transmission of data, because it's not a low amplitude system. Yeah, because from what I heard, it's on the satellite level or like a communication system over there. So it might be like inside billions of cycles per second, or even higher than that into that system itself. It's just that they brought it on that low altitude within the space. So that's what you see right here is just what the airlines used to have. And they just give it up to like the civilian sector over there. So that's like old technology that they revise over and over again. But the revision that was done to it was just the microcontroller and the software like Windows XP. This is Windows 11. Yeah, so now they were able to use a Windows 10 or something like that. Architectural system to then go off and run those nodes on, especially that uses the old voltage system, but at the same time it's much more refined and much more faster on the space. No, because the technology that they use is the same system they used to use on your jammers. Believe it or not, remember those jammers on like your MRAPs and so on? Yeah, these are the same type of systems, the same type of voltage regulators and all that stuff that they used to use specifically on that. So they were testing all this stuff in Iraq and so, prototyping all that stuff to go off and like somewhat counter jam and like eventually use it as cell towers to go off and like somewhat test the weather. And be able to use them as nodes or communication nodes that go off and like be a weather system of them, which is why they call it cell towers. So while they were building them, they were meant to like be like cells on your skins, because of the fact that the feedback of the people that assist them to build that technology itself were like doctors within the field of biology. Yeah, that are studying things on the microscope level, and then eventually they try to replicate natural system and sequence inside the domain of technology and system. Well, clearly they became one of the winners. Yeah, because T-Mobile took over the market and beat out the old system, which was what, Verizon. Yeah, Verizon and Bell Lab was the old predecessors. Yeah, that just maintained an infrastructure. Yeah, within the system itself. And when they tried to launch their own cell phone, even Microsoft tried to get inside the cell phone market, but they lost the acceleration to like Apple and like groups like T-Mobile and a new space technology group over here. But well, I'm that generation over here. But, yeah, by the time I got out of the military, it's 2013, and that's why I finally enrolled inside of a college course for like the first time while being a high school dropout. So I took my engineering courses inside the electrical domain and the computer science domain while they were building the firmware for some of the system over here. But back then it was not that involved until like they developed better microprocessors. Better microprocessors on the systems. And that's why everybody obtained the breakthrough. Yeah, so right now we're all racing for different things, but like at the same time, I'm like, yo, I'm not gonna feed the degenerate parent over here that want to put stuff inside children's head. Children don't even know what's what right now. Myself, that are still lost in the sauce. Repeating or regurgitating crap that's done by older adults that's exploiting children to go off and do the biddings for them. Myself. Nah, I'm all for like letting kids go off and discover things on their own. Not go off and like have kids go off and have stuff put inside their head by like adults that just manipulates them for like stupidity or on especially like within the domain of warfare. They got the fact that they can't compete with adults like myself with that. So now they try to go off and like try to see the children that can use technology. They go off and decipher some things over here. No, that's why I hide it within a higher level of mathematics and the computer science system over here, because I know the kids themselves have not developed an experience to be able to somewhat immerse themselves inside the domain of physics into like a mathematical course that's extensive, and they have a common sense of like knowing what certain errors are. Yeah, around especially. Yeah, or even using a good example would be able to use a special mechanical system that you use when your steering wheel goes off or something. Yeah, some of the kids are, yeah, so there's some things I'm missing to experience that I hide into as like a skill itself that I make sure that other people don't take it, nothing like that. That's why I have other people that are lost in the sauce and like I long surpass them into like all velocities or something. Yeah, which it feel nice, man, when you escape inside of a domain or something. And then coincidentally, you have a whole bunch of old ass thieves hiding behind like different excuses, and then they create a tunnel to you, and then later on have like a whole bunch of like where those fucking follow you on the space here. For a team about fashion, nobody cares. I'm sorry. You see what I'm wearing? Do I look like I care about fashion? No, I don't. Myself. The only thing I care is about making sure that that firmware on that platform that I have comes online. And then I could go off and make my market on the space. Aside from that, I said you just treat the trolling as if it will never harm you, and you just ignore it on the space. And you go on by first. But I said again, the only thing that fucking sucks is that the losers continuously have access to like my internet data, which is related to my research. So anything that I pull up, they try to get an idea of what is it that a person tried to build. Every time I have to go offline, and it costs me time and money. That's all the time. But they take a piece of that puzzle that I built for themselves inside, and they don't tell them what they can do with it or what they want to do with it. A whole bunch of dumbass mothers, grandpas, and a whole bunch of losers try to like go off and jump into shit, try to go off and claim that they're doing this for humanity. By the time they try to do that shit over here, all I'm out there is like, a mother over here with a kid buried on the rubble being crushed to death or something. And these people could not even apologize to her, nothing. The best they could do is just go off and try to claim that, we're like the fashionista over here. I'm like, yo, I'm glad I separated myself from these fucking losers.